All right, Brian, start with you.
Brian, know this.
Red room.
Gary Linden.
Andrew Turner. Bill Evans.
Gary Emerson. Wayne Lowe.
Frank Delino.
Bob Turner.
You're not good looking enough.
Chuck Tompkins.
Lewis Hendrickson.
Jeff Tompkins.
Christian Beckett.
Michael Screen.
Nathan Kanika.
Damon Clark.
I'm Bob Turner.
The real.
With a real male model.
All right, so we got our postseason allocations. Wow. All right, so got 18 regional slots and 3 Met Classic slots. We were hoping for 4. Combined with the 2 state-rated slots that Bob and Wayne have, we'll be sending 5 to the Met Classic this year for the first time in a while. Some background. Postseason slots are determined by a mathematical formula. But as Bob and I learned on Friday, the distribution between regional and Met Classic is determined somehow by the WOA, which means, I believe, time. Hey, hang on, Lewis. So next slide. So here's what you can see the whole state. We and Washington, we have 5. Washington has 6. That third slot, number 3 there, is for David Jones. He takes it with him. He's gone back to Peninsula. We do have the most total of any association in the state, as we would figure based upon our numbers. There, if you really care, is the formula. One more slide. So, no. So, Lewis, you have a question?
A couple things. I didn't say close enough. Western Washington got how many?
3-3. They got 3.
3 plus the 3 returning?
Yeah.
Number 2 is, I know Bob can attest to it. We talked about possibly having 4 plus 2 is the brouhaha with number 12, 13. Probably affected us this year. Then
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Bob?
No, because they corrected the score, so I was put back into the top 12.
What number?
But then number 13, I think they moved up because one of the guys who was in the top 12 is not the same this year.
Well, that didn't affect us. That's
No.
good. Because
So-
originally,
So based on our sheer size, the math would say that we should have gotten 4 slots. But the WA has a policy, I guess, that maxes out an allotment of 3. So you either get 1, 2, or 3. And since we're one of 2 associations, the 2 biggest ones in the state, we get 3. Bob and I are still trying to understand how they make these decisions, but at this point, that's not going to change.
Are you really get 5? Is that what
Yeah.
would then already be?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, I've gotten over a little bit of my anger about it in the last few days, but the thing is, the process is somewhat arbitrary. Back in the days before we had the evaluations, our association would get 6 out of 36 slots because we were that big, right? So the thing is, now that they take all of those Matt Classic slots and they reserve them for the state-rated guys, that means there's like 24 slots kind of up for grabs. And I think the healthiest way to sort of think about it, we sort of said this last time we communicated, Eric, which is there's 14 associations. And really, every association ought to get at least 1 slot, right? Like, some of them by the numbers would only get like half a slot, but they should all get 1. So that means there's really sort of 10 slots up for grabs. And the WOA, and I can kind of see this philosophy, isn't going to allow one association to hog inordinately those 10 slots. If we got 100 certified officials, they wouldn't give us, 8 of those 10, like, because the rest of the state would just be sort of depressed. So I get the fact that there's some negative balance and that they're not going to let someone take 4, 5, 6 at-large slots, but it does run sort of counter to what they're trying to do, which is encourage associations to recruit, train, and retain more people. Like, it's not an incentive for us to go get more people and recruit them in and keep them and stuff if there's no reward for it. So, I mean, that's what they're trying to balance. It doesn't work out well for us in terms of we should get another spot in that classic and someone else should get one less, but it is what it is.
And if you look at hang on, Lewis, if you look at the numbers here, 40% of the Whitman County Association goes to that class. And I had a very long conversation with Terry on Friday, and he acknowledges that they are willing to take a lesser official from another association rather than perhaps a superior official from a larger association. So they acknowledge that, and that's just the reality that we're dealing with. Lewis, anything else?
Yeah, so back to the past, is what happened with the past from what I gather was, used to be some of the smaller associations that would only get less than one, they get one year with the regional, and then the next year they would get the regional.
And they keep talking about going back to that, but there's really not a lot else that we can do to affect how they make those decisions, except to express our displeasure.
Break our association up into half, and we get more excitement that way.
So, if we keep after with our numbers bump this year, presumably we'll be looking at even like over 20 regional assignments next year. So that's something. That's not nothing, right? So, any other things on allocation? Next.
I just have a quick question. It's like Western Washington, like.
That's Tacoma. That's the Tacoma Association. All right, so by now you probably have heard me say enough about rankings. So hopefully there's nothing at this point that hasn't. You guys don't know. Anybody have any questions? Anybody, you guys who are uncertain about how this works, want to ask any questions? The board is meeting on Wednesday, and we will have our final rankings done by Wednesday night. We'll announce them next Monday. Michael.
So we've only seen 15 guys. We just ranked 1 through 15.
Exactly. Yes. Gary.
I have a big comment. For some of us newer guys, I don't know names very well, so I went on to the meeting, punched on the photograph, and there was 3 or 4 people that by name, I had no idea who you were, but when I looked at your photograph, I went, yeah, I've worked with him. And there was a few that I thought, I know that name, and I click on it and there's no picture. So I left off probably 3 or 4 people that I worked with because I did not definitively know who it was. So, and I'm horrible at putting my face out there. My face is there. I mean, I think that just may help.
Wait.
So did you want 3 X's instead of 4 X's now, or 4 X's?
No, keep it at 4. That way, these people who already turn their ballots in will be consistent. So, and we'll use that. We use those. We'll tally the results. So whether it's 3 or 4, it doesn't matter. Brad, Brad? No.
Well, I had the same question about 3 or 4.
Okay. All right. Anything else on rankings and ballots before we move on?
You got the blank ballots to turn around?
They're here, yes.
Load the ballot box.
All right, next. All right, rule change. Those of you who have been around for a while remember that 4 or 5 years ago, there was a big stink at the end of the season about having tape on your headgear, chewing gum, whatever they put on their headgear. And one of those issues was the cross strap. And the rationale for making that illegal was that it was not the manufacturer's intended design. Well, a manufacturer came out recently, you can see here, making it part of their design. So now, thank God, we no longer worry about whether they cross their straps or not. The tape or chewing gum is still illegal. All right. Wayne.
All right, so the guys with the Velcro, with the big heads, and it keeps pumping, I was gonna have them tie up right there. Is that not allowed?
I do
Or
it.
keep that thing up?
Fresh tape.
Yes.
Fresh tape.
Fresh tape?
Yeah.
I can do that, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just stopping the match
Well, the-
every 10 seconds.
The reason why they eliminated the tape on the headgear was supposedly the tape harbored bacteria and fungus and whatnot. And so if they left it on there, then there's high probability that they had a bug within the old tape. So if it's fresh tape, we run into this risk of fresh tape, but basically to tape their chin strap together, that's okay. Or I had a coach argue with me last year, I think, when I had him actually tape all the way around because his headgear kept coming off. And he started arguing with me, and I said, "Coach, you want to leave the building?" I said, "Tape the headgear right now." And I had to
Or
threaten
just
him.
disqualify the kid.
Well, no, it was a coach that was refusing my direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the kid would go, and then the coach would go.
Meantime, there's 3 or 4 seasons old.
Exactly.
All right. Next.
No, where's the candy? Hell was the band behind you.
All right. RT endorsements. Hopefully you all saw my email the other day about RT endorsements. Nothing's done. But there's going to be another one this week. I'll continue to monitor Arbiter, and I'll let you all know when the next one is out. They're still going to enforce this requirement. So, we'll make our district assignments on. Make our district assignments on Wednesday. They'll all be contingent upon everybody having completed the RTO enforcement. So
I did number 4 today.
you did so. Okay.
Question, and there's probably a sentence missing. And you give them the correct answer, and it comes back as, "No, you're wrong." So I
right,
did
well,
that one twice to get the right
okay.
answer, and I still don't know why it's the right answer.
Protest. Yeah. I'll take a look and I'll send it to Terry.
3 seconds left in the ultimate tiebreaker? He takes his second timeout or something like that. And then the other guy takes the
Okay.
You have to run for 3 seconds. They don't, there's not enough room. It doesn't fit the end of the sentence. The question makes no sense unless you assume that happened.
After I answered it the first time, that's what I
That's why they let
assumed
you
the
take the
second
5 times.
time, and I said, okay, I got it right.
All right. I'll send Terry a note saying fix this.
Well, there's also one that says in the referee's position. Referee's position is they're down and we're waiting to blow the whistle. That's the referee's position. Where instead of saying that,
Number 4, number 3.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was just like, it's just not worded right, period.
So, just, it is what it is. Every year we have these issues with the way they communicate. That's why you got 5 shots at it. So just, yes. So, Matt.
Okay, so Damon and I were down at Foss High School, and we were discussing this one of the RTO questions, which I never knew the rule existed about after this 2-point call. Then you give the other guy the cross.
Yeah.
Okay. So when does that rule come into effect?
About
We'll get to that. I have the question. That's one of.
Okay, because we have a scenario that we have no answer to, but I'll hold off until we get there.
So, interestingly, and I knew this, I just forgot to mention it. All of these questions come from actual incidents around the state. So, your answer to the question is just remind yourself that somebody's already screwed this call.
And we didn't get to redo it.
Yeah. All right. If you have issues with Arbiter not showing you having completed them, take it up with Todd, right? Keep Bob and me informed, but you got to resolve this yourself. This is not our responsibility to resolve. All right. Next. Don't wait till Wednesday if you have any problems too. All right. What happened to the? No, keep going, Dave. Sorry, I screwed that back here. There you go. So here's the question. Was this your question you were talking about,
Yes.
Chuck?
Referee's position.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I found a couple of these interesting, so I pulled them out because I thought you guys would want to talk about them. So referee's position, wrestler B is on the bottom. He's already been warned and penalized 2 times for stalling. The official calls on B another time. What's the procedure? By now you already know that it's C, right? You don't stop the match until there's a natural play.
and where the confusion is on that, if they're in the, we can call stalling before, when they're down waiting for, we're waiting for them to get set in the referee's position. We can call stalling if one guy's dilly-dallying and not getting down. You can hit with stalling, so it says here, it says, what's the procedure? Well, continue the match. No, wait a minute. There is a natural stoppage. I'm in the natural stoppage.
Right,
So, I mean, this is where it gets confusing for that. But C is the answer.
Yeah, there's always an exception to that. So there's nothing to stop if you're already stopped.
Right.
So.
Okay, so assuming we accept this one. Okay, so now the whole third period goes, and there is no stoppage.
Right.
Next
Okay.
restart.
Even so, you
No points. No points.
right.
Right.
So you're not going to sudden victory because it's time.
And you tell the kid top, bottom,
Even if you're supposed to be both in a neutral
correct.
position in sudden victory, you give them the choice right now.
Wow.
Okay.
That's the subsequent restart.
Okay.
Top or bottom though. Right?
But
Okay. Okay. One at a time.
It can be-
The question that's, the question that's really posing is,
Oh, it's the, I'm sorry.
the question that's really being posed is if we don't use that, if we're the offensive wrestler, the other wrestlers taking their third, if we haven't used that throughout the second period, third period goes, we haven't used it. Does it disappear? Is it still in my back pocket for the next period?
What's the scenario?
Okay, so scenario, so he took his third injury timeout, he took his second injury timeout in the second period.
Yeah.
And so the third period, I already have choice, but yet, so on the restart, I will get another choice, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that third period goes and nothing happens.
Right.
So going into the overtime period,
So let's be.
is it still base?
We need to be precise.
Yes.
You had an injury timeout. When did the injury happen?
In the second.
So in between the second and the third period?
No, and the second.
right at the end of the second period.
Yeah.
you know,
So
literally.
before the third period started.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah. And he already had the choice. You're saying start the third period.
Right.
So don't go to
Yes.
Facebook.
So he gets on a choice on whatever the next restart.
But there's no restart in the third period.
Correct.
So it goes a whole minute.
Fourth period.
So now we're in sudden victory. And you're saying that now you don't have to start him in neutral.
Correct.
You can put,
He gets choice.
he can actually choose the bottom or whatever. In sudden victory. Okay.
Curtis.
So for the what if he got hit with 2 points stalling and he started taking 2 like 2 guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now the
it.
2 point, you're saying if he does it again?
No, it's over to the next two timeouts. For stalling 3 times, we get.
Well, no.
So yes, he would have. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next, Dave. All right. This is the other one. This is the one that killed me. This is about the scorekeeping mistake.
Yeah.
So that the winner thinks he's gone from the mat. He thinks he's won. There's no idea that he hasn't won. So the answer is
C.
C. Another C.
Yeah, because the coach handled it.
Right.
The coach can accept it.
That's
Right,
just a code.
Right.
Right. My problem with this, I mean, this is the rule, so that's what the answer is. I can, if there's an error, a scorekeeping error in the first period, they can, wrestle the entire 3 periods plus overtime and have the coach pull us out and say, but that's what the rule is. So.
Well, it's only if it's a clerical kind of error.
Right.
Or
But I
adding up,
can see
right?
a coach making a mental note that there was a mistake and he doesn't want to.
Oh, yeah.
It works to his advantage if the opponent thinks he's ahead. Yeah. So
And again, it is B, it is not.
I can't.
Coaches aren't that smart.
He'll tell you about what happens when a kid is ahead by 1 point with 1 second left and then lets his opponent go.
You like on purpose?
All right, Dave, next.
Yeah, he did it.
All right. So before we
okay.
turn over to Damon, Christian had an issue that he wanted to raise and get discussion on and see if we can get a consensus.
Do we have enough time?
Yes, yeah, it's pretty simple, you know, a couple of years ago, what was it, 2 years ago, they did the unnecessary roughness penalty. And, yes, that too. The signal and the penalty, which is a little different from the original hold which they had before. And so I'm kind of an old school guy, I kind of let a little rough wrestling go through, but this year more than any other year, some parents and or coaches are like, hey, they're applying that hold a little rough, a little bit too much. And so I guess I was a little bit curious, when a wrestler is broken down, say flat on the mat, and the offensive wrestler, the guy on top in the advanced position, is applying the forearm to the back of the head, when that wrestler is not building up, is that going to be considered unnecessary roughness? Because the more I've thought about it, I thought, if he's already broken down, what's the benefit of continuing to apply the hammer to the back of the head? But it happened to me while I wrestled. So for me, I've always been looking at it this year going, well, it happened to me and I was okay with it. And I, you know, a little dodgy, but still I'm all right. Let the wrestling, right. Let the wrestling continue. But the more I thought about it, I thought, you know, the purpose of that rule would be, is that necessary to use any force at all to apply to the back of the head of that wrestler that's already broken down? So kind of open it up to discussion because that was one of those questions that's rolling through my head for the last couple of days. Anyway.
I call that. It can't go any farther if that's unnecessary force. No, but I would let it go. Hold it down.
Okay.
Tight.
Hold it down is good, but applying any force.
Grinding it. That's just
If you drop it on the, drop it down on it.
I'm not talking about like 6 to 10 inches. I'm talking like 2 inches.
I wasn't dropping it all, but
It kind of how it depends on force. If you just put it down, no. If you're, you know, if you're putting some emphasis
If you're
on it.
delivering a blow,
There you go.
you're delivering a blow,
Mhm.
then I would say that's not. I don't see him typically when the bottom guy's up. I don't typically see him come down on it hard. I see him when they're down on the mat. The guy's raised up a little bit, and he comes down, basically trying to hold the head down so he can either do a power half, or just get so you position something differently. But I think it's you know, we talked about, are you delivering, are you applying a move, or are you delivering the move, like delivering a blow?
Right. I tell him, use it, and if he does that and he doesn't.
And he starts rubbing it like Mike's talking about. No.
Or applying a hold to punish. That's how I used to call it.
Hold to punish.
It's illegal as a hold to punish. So would the next question be, if they're using it to apply a half, maybe okay, but if they're just doing it to hold them down, maybe not? Does that matter?
Are they delivering it? Are they holding it? You know, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like if his face is already in the mat, he can't go any lower.
What's
The
it
reason why he has to come down with the forearm on top of the neck, an inch and a half into the mat.
Say with crossface.
Even if he doesn't deliver it,
Crossface.
you can see a guy going
Oh,
up and putting his
that's a
elbow
different
in.
story.
I don't have to
That's
deliver
abusive.
anything.
That's
I'm
abusive.
right there,
Yeah.
and his
Again,
face was
what's the
flat, right
intent?
across the wall.
What's the intent?
What's the result of what he's doing? In the end, all it's doing is punishing the guy.
Right.
I think you have to determine for yourself where the edge is. It's too much, it's too much. Sometimes you can, when it happens, you can verbally warn him as well, watch the pressure, just like you do with your armor. Watch it, or sometimes when they're tied up, watch the heavy hands.
watch the heavy
Yeah,
hand.
the cross face.
Or, yeah, the cross face, it's not going anywhere. That's another clue. You know, if they just throw the cross face and then they don't grab the arm or really try to do it. Once again, what's the purpose?
Yeah, thanks. I got that. I was revisiting for myself because when you say, hey, you know, your own, you know, where's your boundary line? My boundary line has been, I'll accept a lot of punishment.
What would Christian
Right,
do?
Matt?
Exactly. It would work.
Well, there's for this one thing too. When you're dealing with stuff where there isn't a clear boundary, say, like your cross face is harder than the one I would allow,
Yeah.
or harder than his. There's no clear boundary line. The way I approach these things is, when it's close, I'll do what Paul says. Hey, watch that cross. You're right at the limit. Like, I'll tell a kid that, right? If he gets into that gray area again, I'm just going to penalize him, right? Because you're making me, I'm worried enough to tell you you're at a limit, or hey, that's real close. And now you're doing it again. You're not maybe ratcheting it down a little bit. So, because it's a gray area, if I verbalize to him and he's in that gray area again, I'm probably just going to penalize him, get him to back off from that. I don't have to sit there and worry or wonder to myself, is that too hard? I went out, he's doing it again. Like, you know what? Stop it.
And there's a lot of things that are like that, including the hands to the head.
That's what I
Slapping
wanted
the
to talk
head,
about that, yeah.
cross face.
They come down on the
Or-
throw to the head.
You
It's
know,
like,
and
wow.
again, it's just what's unnecessary roughness. You know, it's what you say is unnecessary roughness. And definitely has to, for me, definitely has to be, why? Has to be part of the move. I mean, I gotta be seeing, you know, that force half or, you know,
Or grabbing the
rather
forearm
than
with
just
a
like
cross face.
delivering, is he really just delivering a blow? And if he's delivering a blow, that's not okay.
And it's, you know, it's a tough sport. But you're right, that's where we do have to use that judgment. I think in college last year, I mean, those kids beat the heck out of each other in college. The kids will walk off an 8-minute match and their faces all swollen and bruised up. I think last year the officials' focus was let's keep an eye on that. Let's keep an eye on the blows to the head during those takedowns because we're not really, this isn't boxing yet. So I think did we kill that one or are we still? So taking on the role of a trainer this year has been challenging. I don't quite have the technology in my back pocket, like I thought, a sharp guy like myself would. So it's been a struggle. So bear with me here. I think next time we'll have a lot more video, but we should have enough to take us through about 2.5 hours of time. So it might be pizza. Okay. So this is a mid-season. This is kind of we're towards the end of the season now. This is prepared for the last meeting. So we're going to be sort of shifting gears, looking towards the some of the things that start to come about more and more as an official towards the end of the season. You start to get more overtime situations that become crucial to the kid advancing. If the kid's advancing in a tournament, that's one thing. If a kid's advancing to get to the next stage of the postseason wrestling, then it's so much more crucial. So it's important to keep some of these situations fresh in our head, especially you young guys. If you do get a postseason, a district tournament, some of these things are really good to keep under your hip. Overtime, how not to screw up an overtime. Penalty preparedness.
Let me. Can I say one thing about the overtime?
And we're going to go into each one of these in detail, by the way.
Okay. So the thing I would say though is when you're dealing in overtime situations in these high pressure matches at a district or regional or even a state, just refresh the kids on what's going on because they don't get in these situations very often. So I had a match in the state finals, where they went into the 2 tiebreaker periods, right? I don't know if this has ever been in the 2 tiebreakers. So it's sort of like when I get into sudden victory, it's like, okay, 1 minute on the clock, sudden victory. First one to score wins. You can pin your opponent, wrestle until you hear the whistle. Right? Like I don't want them to stop. You get into that first 3. Okay. We're wrestling 2 30-second periods now. 2 30-second periods. So do not stop if you score.
Right.
Green, you have choice, top, bottom, or defer, right? Like, and you just, okay, we're wrestling a second period now, so keep wrestling, guys. Like, you just tell them these things because they're in the middle of a very hot match, maybe, and they don't know these things. We saw a kid in the state finals at 220, who he thought he had won the match when they're in the two tiebreaker thing, and he let go of the opponent, was celebrating, and the guy got away, and then the other guy won. So, these kids don't know. That's why in these postseason things, it's just good habit to remind them what the protocol is here so they don't screw up.
So as well as overtime, be prepared for penalties. Fred, did you have something? I have a question around that 30-second time break. You're gonna be my first person I look to. So during overtime. So penalty preparedness for unique occurrences. I call them unique occurrences, even though they happen every time I officiate, such as coach misconduct, unsportsmanlike, flagrant misconduct. Yeah, you don't want to be blindsided by something and not know how to make the proper signage. And then having these in our back pocket so that we can remain cool and keep in our role and not freak out and cower into a fetal position. And then what to do when the second injury happens, we were discussing earlier, or the second penalty point is earned. And then we're going to focus a little bit of our videos on the role of the assistant referee. You guys have some of you younger fellas had the chance to do some assistant refereeing. It's hard to do during dual matches, but come postseason, there's no more of that, and during any postseason event, you'll probably find yourself assistant referee. Okay. Overtime. So what do we do if it's tied after 3 periods?
Fetal position.
Check your table help. So we have a 1-minute sudden victory. Bob, I really like how I say takedown wins, penalty point wins. But I like how you say it. We can wrestle through to the pin, points win, first person to score wins.
And the only reason we let them wrestle through is if I pin, I get more points. 2 points.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Just keep in mind the design of this sport, right? The ultimate victory is the pin. That's why the rules are structured such that with single falls right into near fall, sudden victory right into near fall. We're going to let it continue so they can have a chance to get that ultimate victory.
I'm sorry. However, remember, it's got to be
Yes.
directly to his back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, directly to his
Right into near fall. Right there.
not right.
So pretty easy.
Bear hug when they fall backwards, right under the back.
Yeah.
So pretty easy. How are you going to screw that up? Because it's overtime, and the guy, as Dave Black noted, guy skies him. Everybody's cheering. He puts him in. He takes him down right to his back. Everybody's cheering. You blow the whistle, and you're woo! Winner! We got a winner. And meanwhile, he's on his back. You stop the action, and you just ruin the kid's chance to earn the extra team points. Very easy to do. So if you're in that 30-second tiebreaker, remember, if it's a takedown, we better make sure it's a clean takedown to a pinning combination, not a takedown to a pin. Okay? And let's just say we're tied after that 30-second victory.
1 minute.
1 minute, pardon me. Well, then you probably should call it a stalling, because that's a long time to go with that. So if neither we're going to 2 30-second tiebreakers. And I screwed this one up a few years ago. We did 1 30-second tiebreaker, and the other gal won, and I called the match. And then we had a discussion at the table. We pulled the girl back from the pride in the basement. But yeah, so if needed, after that 4th period, the 5th period is followed by the 6th period. 2 30 seconds. So the one wrestler has choice of top or bottom. Correct.
It's a coin toss.
Thank you. And then whoever does not win, then in turn gets the second choice of top or bottom, only top or bottom. Right. So really what we're looking for is who can get out or who can restrain the opponent. Right? At the conclusion of those 2 30 seconds, now digest the score. Do we have a winner or not? Or shall we go one further? Now we go one further. Now we have a choice of top or bottom, determined by who got the first score. So if you're at some of these more advanced tournaments, their table is going to be well skilled. If you're at, if you got a lot of school help at your table, this is why we always tell them, please circle for me the first points. You might even tell your table, please circle for me I've told them for years, please circle for me the first points, even though I have no idea why I told them. Well, this is the reason you tell them, is because in that final 30-second ultimate tiebreaker, whoever scores first has choice, unless we have an unsportsmanlike conduct, a flagrant unsportsmanlike conduct, or
Unsportsmanlike.
They get a penalty basically.
Right, but that doesn't, right, but that doesn't with the coin.
No.
Right, with the first flip.
Right. Only in the ultimate.
Second,
Curtis Hill.
Yep. It's just unsportsmanlike, it's not unnecessary roughness,
Correct.
it's not illegal hold, it's just unsportsmanlike.
It's the NFHS's way of, again, emphasizing sportsmanship. You did an unsportsmanlike thing during regulation. Now you're going to pay for it as the ultimate tiebreaker. Forget that part of your
And the key thing is knowing the difference when you're in the first three, or really the first 4 or 5 periods, whatever. Knowing the difference between what unsportsmanlike, unnecessary roughness is, because that would be the time that you've got to realize, oh, wait, but that was unsportsmanlike. That wasn't an illegal hold. So that's one of those things you really got to, when you're awarding those penalties throughout the match, if you do get to that ultimate tiebreaker, that's when you've got to wait a minute. That was unsportsmanlike. You go, no, I signaled instead of unsportsmanlike. So it's really important.
And the difference between unnecessary roughness and unsportsmanlike is with baiting and speaking and right, exactly, right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And we look at that Washington tournament, and one of the, because in football, unsportsmanlike behavior is never a physical contact situation. In wrestling, it still can be. Like if you shove somebody off the mat, you just say, "Yay, get off me." Well, that's unsportsmanlike, right? You're not being sporting there. It's not an illegal hold. It's not unnecessary roughness. That's unsporting.
Yeah, basically, if it's not a wrestling move that's going on, and it's an infraction, then it leans towards unsportsmanlike.
Coloring your nasal passages in unauthorized.
Talking back to the ref, not, showing displeasure of the call you made. That's unsportsmanlike. You're right, if we screw up, then the coach goes to the table.
I have a question about unsportsmanlike.
Last one was a statement, by the way.
This is gonna be fun. So coach asked me, guy was beating up a kid, he was basically against tech ball, and he would take him down to his back and wouldn't pin him, but then would let him up and then immediately stamp to his feet. The coach afterwards says, I think that's unsportsmanlike, that's what they used to call it. And I go, I don't believe so. So I read the book and it says baiting in there is unsportsmanlike. Now what is baiting? Because you can bait someone into like taking a bad shot, leaving your leg out there, but like, is it taunting almost? Like say, okay, yeah, okay, all right. Just want to clarify that.
How Paul used to call it.
I would say it is unsportsmanlike. You let a guy up off of his back. It's not unsportsmanlike. You let him go and take him down. But when you take him down, you're showing him up by letting him off his back. And remember what the ultimate is in wrestling is to pin the guy. So I've had it happen. What I generally do is lets him off of his back. It's embarrassing, showing him up. And I'll tell him, that can be interpreted as unsportsmanlike. Let's not do that again.
Right. He's immediately standing up from basically being on top of pinning.
I think there is something written in the book that allows them to do that. To let them up,
It's not
so they can come back and immediately shoot.
Specifically says it's not
But-
if you take them down and then let them back.
Immediately attempt.
But as far as taking them down to their back and then and allowing them to wrestle to their stomach and then cutting them might be different than you take them down to their back and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, great, all right, I'm off you now. All right, now I'm gonna take you down again. I think that's unsportsmanlike. At that point.
So I'll offer a little bit of history here, because there used to be, when this first was an issue like 20 years ago, literally, there was something that the NFA does about this, and that there was a mention by the NFA that it could be considered unsportsmanlike to get off of him while you were pinning him, basically. So the thing is, though, the thing that I always sort of shade towards is, what is he doing when he gets off? Right? It's sort of like, because it's a legal tactic not pin the guy. Upon releasing you immediately thereafter attempt to take him. So if the guy goes right back to work, he's not emotional, he's not showing him up, he's not punting, he's not dancing or something. He just, sometimes coaches, wants to get some takedowns. He wants to puts him right to his back and jumps off of him while he's in criteria. As long as he's not, showing him up, doing some unsportsmanlike behavior on top of it, he's just all business. And I would say, not calling it unsportsmanlike, but if he's doing some other antics, by all means, penalize him.
Yeah, my second year, I watched a kid at Kentwood do that, but no showboating, just took the guy, and he was overpowered the kid, took him down, let him up, took him down, let him up, took him down to his back, let him up, and he just was such a beast. And Wallace Chalklin, he got down, you can see Wallace get down here. Well, yeah, Wallace got down. And he got down there, and you could see that he mouthed something.
This was a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, he still was a little big. But anyway, long and the short of it is, afterwards, I went to him, I said, Wally, what did you say to the guy? And he said, finish him. That was it. He just said, finish him. Because he felt he was right at that borderline of embarrassing that kid. And that's what he told me. He said, Chuck, he was right there to the point.
Let's move on. David,
So,
Fred had a question at the very beginning.
Yes, it's on that tiebreaker.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Go ahead. Here's my chance. Okay.
It's not a quick
Now, I got into that, Meadowdale coach went off. The guy, when you can either write him out, the guy turned him over, put him to his back. I let him go, and it was a pin with 2 seconds left. He's saying you can't do that. Once the guy got the reversal, he says it's over, but he put him right to his back.
Yeah.
So let me just clarify. So there's the fourth period, the 1 minute first
Right.
point score. Wrestler red takes wrestler green to their back, and wrestler green reverses wrestler red.
No. The guy's riding. Yeah, the ultimate type. So he reverses, put him right to his back. So I let it go. Right. Yeah, and he was right into near fall. He pinned him 2 seconds. Well, this Meadowdale coach was mad, and I gave him a unsportsmanlike. He I guess a couple of days before he had the same problem. He might not be coaching right now because the vice principal was scoring, and he wanted to argue with me, and they told him to back off, and he went. I went up to Kevin Junkins running the tournament. He followed me up because he said I had to report that he had his warning, and he wanted to argue Junkins for the guy to get out of there, or else he's kicking him out. But the point is, he says you can't do that but the guy put him like you just said. So I let it go, and he pinned him in 2 seconds left. So it was a right call then. Yeah, but this coach was all day. He wanted locking hands, stalling on everybody. There was this whole. He's not the head coach. He's some guy that. Okay, but apparently he's getting fired. She said.
Okay, moving on. Further offenses. So what happens when we do have these scenarios? So this is kind of funny. For the first coach misconduct penalty, what's the first coach misconduct penalty?
This is a warning. And then -1, then -2.
Right. Well, the first one is a warning. So the first penalty would be deduct 2 team points.
minus 1 team point for the first misconduct penalty. So you get a misconduct warning, then you get misconduct minus 1 team point, misconduct minus 2 team points, and we'll see you tomorrow. Right.
And
you get to watch the football game.
The other question we always have to remember on coach's misconduct. Coach's misconduct is the head coach. Always remember that. If it's the assistant coach, you guys are in two different gyms. It's the assistant coach that is called you to the table. You give the coach's misconduct warning, and as soon as that match over, we have a responsibility to make sure that the head coach knows that he's on the clock in essence. He's the one that just received the coach's misconduct
So we
warning.
make sure we ask the coach, are you the head coach?
If you don't know if he's the head coach, you make sure.
Because I don't know which is which most of the time.
The other thing is that misconduct only happens during conference.
At the table.
Yes.
At the table.
Oh, that's the warning, coach. Because he said something from the bench. He said something unsportsmanlike conduct, but misconduct only happens when there's a conference, and the conference has to happen in front of the sports table.
And you don't change your opinion.
You don't change the ruling.
Ruling.
You change your opinion. That guy really does suck.
Areas in a tournament setting, find the head official and let him know the decision.
Right.
Let him worry about it.
Yeah. But the head coach needs to know because a lot of
Right,
times
it's
they
his-
don't know that
Yeah.
they've been penalized, that they're in trouble next go round. So
Situations this year, we just had a sheet at the head table, and we've used that same sheet to keep track of concussions, coaches' misconducts, any flagrants, etc. So if you just have a place to keep, as well, everyone needs to know about it. But if you do record it, it's really
Makes it
a
easy.
good thing.
makes it really easy.
Yeah, but you should be offering a prize for the most concussions. That kind of went over the line.
So the first penalty for coach conduct is
Penalty is 1 point after the warning.
The first offense
It is a warning.
is a warning,
Yes.
first penalty, then that's where we skipped the,
So no
my
point on the
technology guy
warning,
skipped
right?
us ahead.
No point on the warning.
So we skipped a slide, that's why I lost. So what is the first offense for coach misconduct? A warning, we covered that. And then what is the first penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Against who?
Yeah.
And during the match or not during the match? Now, we're talking coaches or we talking participants?
Fair enough, here we're talking about coaches who are
Okay.
non-participants.
Okay, thank you.
Be deduct 1 team point. And
It's on the individual, whoever that is, coach, team, right.
By exception, if you can't pin it on an individual, give it to the coach. This happened to me one time. I was officiating at the home high school about 15 years ago. Somebody was yelling something unsportsmanlike from the bench while a kid was getting pinned. I'm looking at the pin. These guys are behind me. I don't know who's yelling the unsportsmanlike thing. When the situation ends, I turn around and I go, Coach, I don't know who it was, so I'm penalizing you. But the unsportsmanlike has to go against a person, not against a team or whatever. You have to pick a person. Somebody did an unsportsmanlike act, and you have to point them out and penalize them. If he would have messed up there, it was this guy. I would have hit him throw unsportsmanlike conduct anyway for ratting the guy out. That wasn't very sporting-like, coach. Meaning you too.
either way would be against the team.
No, well, the point is not against the team, but the offense is against the individual.
and the team is actually a deduction rather than
Yeah.
to add, well, more so in a dual match. It's a deduction. The second, this is kind of interesting. The second penalty for misconduct and the second penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, again, for a coach or is removal of premises immediately on that second penalty and to deduct 2 team points.
Okay, so that's incorrect, actually. For the second unsportsmanlike conduct, yes, deduct the 2 team points and the remainder of the event or tournament. But for coach misconduct, it's only for the rest of the day.
So
So,
Saturday.
correct. If it was a state tournament on Friday and you rang up some coach, he'd be gone out of the dome Friday, he could come back Saturday morning.
See, you're just reading into it too deep there.
You have it right for the enforcement.
Yeah, thank you. So there is a difference. So I observed, I said, wow, they're exactly the same, but no, they're not, because unsportsmanlike, you're allowed to come back the next day and have another shot at
Yeah,
screwing.
so the clock starts to run. He gets
On the misconduct.
goes warning, one and two.
See, that's why I put this together. See, thank you. Flagrant misconduct, immediately 3-point team deduction and removal from the premises or up towards it, was it?
Coach wise.
But just a comment here, Lewis and Chuck. For the guys who had matches right before league start, just re-familiarize the participants and say, watch your flagrant misconduct. You kicked out before the end is the end before it starts, right?
Yeah, you've
So
got.
I think Lewis, you mentioned it, and Chuck, I think you guys were talking about it.
The
So good
coaches,
practice.
the coaches are really have to be very careful this time of the year. If they do not have an event, if they don't have an event between now and leagues, or let's say they have I have an event Wednesday with a coach. If a coach gets booted, if they get disqualified, as in they have to leave, ejected, thank you. It's highly probable that they will not be able to be with their team for league. So that should
The next.
they miss the next event. Yeah. So I mean, if
That one and the next.
right.
And if it's an athlete, his season will be over.
Yeah, so if you are doing a match, later this week, just remind the guys, you can practice it. I said Lewis and Chuck, you guys are out. I think it was good.
We had a coach out in our area that could not have done the state tournament because he got ejected at regionals. And he had 2 guys in the state finals. Wow.
Probably because he wasn't there.
Could be. There's Eric Wana.
It wasn't me.
When he was coaching
He was
Buffalo.
probably sitting in the stands, he just wasn't.
He just wasn't there.
Flagrant misconduct on the participant, they need to be removed as well, correct?
Correct.
Well, and for movement,
Been around.
or placed in the stand with a coach away from the.
Yes. We can't keep the kid out of the building unless he's going home.
Be with the team.
But
Get some
Brian,
examples from some of the people who have been around and thrown out of flagrant. No, I just want to know if you've actually done it. I'm pretty tolerant, kind of like you were saying, hit the back of the head. I let it happen, What is the threshold when you, or coach, whatever? What's the?
I said some, and that's part of the reason this is on here. I just came across my lap for the first time, and I had never given one away. 3 weeks ago at a tournament, I had a kid come out on the the berserker drug. He was on that berserker drug, and you know the drug, yeah. So he slapped the mat and he said "Woo!" and he come at the wrestler and he the poor wrestler was terrified and he picked the wrestler up and he skied him about 15 feet in the air and slammed him down, and I called it right away, and I said it was like everybody, we had a recovery time. And we said to the wrestler, "Hey, you have got to return him safely when you pick him up that way." I was very serious, and I took time to talk to the wrestler. We took time out, and then we got back together. The wrestler recovered, went back to the line. Again, he slapped the mat. He came at him. He took him again. This time, he slammed him on the back of his neck, on the back of his shoulders, and hurt the kid, but not severely. And at that point, I just said, "Flagrant misconduct. This match is over." And there was a lot of chaos that ensued, and there was a stand that came down, and kind of was a fan from the stand came down, and he was he's kind of shadowing me, so I was aware of him, even though it didn't scare me. But it turned out that was the father of the kid that was violated, and he was coming down to protect his kid and possibly do harm to the other kid. The wrestler, I don't think had. I think at that point, and I told the coach, I said, "Coach, I'm sorry." He's like, "We're working on this kid. He's having troubles here. He's having troubles there." I say, "I understand, Coach, But at this point, this is just too unsafe to continue this match. It's just too unsafe. And then I had to go on the WOA page that night and fill out a brief section.
Did the kids say? So here, Brian, your question also. Keep in mind, any of us, right? Flagrant misconduct really is like the ultimate penalty in our sport, right? In any sport, there's these kind of penalties, right? So make sure that whatever it is, basically the penalty for flagrant misconduct is you do not belong in the sport. That's why we remove you from the event. That's why the WIA says you can't participate in the next event. Like, you need to change what you're doing to be allowed in the sport. So with coaches, it better be something pretty doggone out of line for you to ever go down the flagrant misconduct path. With the athletes, it's different, right? Because they're physical. They may do something, biting, slugging, something like that. But with the coach, you think to yourself, does this guy deserve the death penalty? Should he be removed and not allowed to coach next event? Like, it better be pretty doggone serious.
F-bomb, but that's probably unsportsmanlike conduct. But if he starts talking about your mother, your wife, and really, then you could move possibly in. Yeah, using that. Like.
What happens if the dual meet is over and you're walking out and the coach comes by and says, "You were the fucking worst official I've ever met.
Have you signed the book?
Yeah, you've
There you go.
I think in that case, I better get in my car and get home safely.
My mom died this morning. You will report that to the WIA. So the standard on that is whether or not it's an unsportsmanlike conduct during the course of the match. If you have signed the book at the end of that match, then that match is over, and that's where the question comes in. As far as whether or not there's some unsporting behavior that happens after that, like you get mad dogged at your car and eggs thrown at you by the coaches, they're driving away because they think you're terrible. Sounds like this has happened to you before. I may have represented somebody.
Did they hit the car with the eggs? Was it a hit? Okay, if it misses, who cares?
At that point, that's when you tell the assigner, the president of the association, they can go ahead and report it to the WA. Because again, that sort of conduct is unsporting in its extreme and needs to be addressed from the administration level. So that's more than just somebody saying, "Hey, F you, you have a bad call," during the course of a match. When they're actually following up after that, you've got some anger problems.
But the thing is that the state considers it a post-event ejection or flagrant conduct. So it is still, you don't want to let that go.
Same is true with an athlete.
Yes.
Once you sign the book, or the final bout of the tournament, your jurisdiction is ended. You can no longer call any penalties. Okay, but if an athlete you turn around, there's a disgruntled athlete with a finger in your chest or something like that, you're gonna find the coach of the this kid right here. You're gonna tell him what he did, and you're gonna turn him over to the administration because whether it's coach or athlete, they cannot be allowed to just do whatever they please after the jurisdiction ends and think there's no consequence. Let the school handle it. Let the WIA handle it.
Now, if the kid seizes you the next day at the ball, do you have any recourse? So hey, this is something I've thought about all season, and this is just a seed I want to plant in everybody's head. If anything were to ever happen horrible at one of the events that we're attending, for example, an earthquake, I call it an active dew harmer, or an unforeseen evacuation. Just something to think about. You're by no means is it our responsibility to play this role, but if something were to happen, our outfit alone is going to put us in a position of leadership. So whenever I'm at an event, I always kind of know where I am and how I got in, and maybe how I went to the bathroom or such. So I'm not sure if anybody else has ever thought of this, but know your exits. And if you do have to ever evacuate the building, there's generally an area in the schools where it's designated as a safe, far enough away where people can start to congregate. So, yeah, here we go, Fred. I'll start in the back there.
Okay, here's a question. We had this problem this year. Now, the fire alarm went off. Yeah.
Did he take it right to his back?
So,
Let it keep going then.
so what is our responsibility as a rep? Because I'm taught, because like, are we the last ones to get out and make sure that everybody's out safely?
So this is what I wanted to say. Part of my pre-meeting, besides the table crew and the teams and stuff, I always find the site director or the athletic director. So I'll just point him, and I'll go over and I'll introduce myself and I'll say, okay, two things I want to clarify with you. Number one, if someone needs to be ejected, I'm going to point them out to you and I'm going to need you to take them out, and we won't start again until they're gone. So yeah, I got that. Okay. Second thing is, in the event of one of these kind of emergencies like he's describing, I'm administering the contest, but if that kind of stuff happens, I turn it over to you. If there's an earthquake, a fire drill, something, it's to you. So I want to clarify with that person so that people don't implicitly think, oh, the guy with the gray striped shirt is going to take me to safety. I don't always know where their congregation place is and all that other stuff. I just want to make sure that in my pre-meet, I've clarified that with whoever's in charge of the building, that stuff's taken care of.
But on that question is that when that happened, I made sure I was the last one out because I'm taught to always make sure passengers or people in the building, since I'm in charge, I'm like a referee. They need to get out before I do. That's why I asked them.
That's your choice.
We're not, I'm just saying we don't have to
That's
stop.
your choice.
Okay. Yeah.
That is your responsibility. That is your job.
Yeah.
You should have seen him on the Titanic.
Oh, me! He was cleaning up, and I was the last one out.
He's in a rope.
I want to make sure everybody got safe. I know you're
Hey, Fred, so that's a great point, but it's, as far as my understanding, this is not our responsibility. Yeah, this is not our responsibility. In fact, it's probably the administrator or the tournament director's responsibility. What I'm saying is, if you find yourself leading a small herd of children, just try to lead them to greener pastures. Yeah. Okay. So again, it's just something to always, since we are working big events, just something to think of. With the stripes, we're probably going to be the first target, so don't worry about it. Okay. Okay. Page 43, and I highlighted the page on this because this can be a little bit overwhelming to new guys, but let's see if we can break it down. When we take a second injury, or we give up the second penalty point to our opponent, then in addition,
No, he's talking
second,
oh, but right now he's
2 points for stalling. Yeah. Okay. 2 points for stalling. Thank you for the clarification. Then we are awarded, or our opponent, whoever's doing the violation, the opponent gets choice. So at the first period, let's just imagine this. I get injured in the first period. I get injured in the second period. Now, I get injured in the first period. I get second injured in the first period. Then choice goes to my opponent in the second and third period.
Okay, let's be real precise.
Yeah.
If the injury occurs between the first and the second period. So if we're wrestling in the first period, you get injured 15 seconds in, then you get injured a minute in, he's going to get on the restart in the first period. If it happens after the first period has concluded and before the second period begins, that's when you now get choice in the second and third period.
Thank you.
So you got to be precise.
Yeah, really important.
And if let's just say if the second injury happens in the first period, then on that reset, my opponent would get choice, and then there would be a disc clip for the second and third period regular.
Yeah. Whatever the order was, that was
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
To be honest with you, the rule book overly complicated. So the first thing is the incentive you have up there is choice is given for the next period. There are exceptions. First exception that it happens between the end of the first period and before the beginning of the second period. Now, person gets choice about the second and third period, regardless of what the point would say, because they're trying to guard against the idea that you had choice anyway in the second period. So that's exception one. Exception two. It happens between the yeah, second and third period again. You gotta get choice on the restart though, when you the only exceptions are when it's going to alter the choices that are prescribed, either by the point slip or by rules
Bob clarifies it happens between the second and the third period. And if the non-injury taking contestant has choice starting the third period, then he gets an additional choice after restart.
correct. They wanted to simplify the rule basically so that you wouldn't have to figure out, oh, wait a second, you're not getting any sort of benefit because you had choice anyway or whatever. Like, so that's why they just said if it happens between the first and second period, he gets choice to start both the second and the third period. Okay?
So Curtis Hill, what would a restart look like in the third period?
A restart?
Yeah. What would give me an example of a restart? Go out of bounds, come back, and say, wrestler A. We're 30 seconds in the period. Wrestler A, top, bottom, or neutral, and then we're gonna restart in that position.
Yeah.
But then if they go out of bounds and it's whoever had control.
It's wherever we are. Correct.
Or both neutral.
Correct. Yeah. So I suggest everybody that's new, everybody that's medium, everybody that's old and rusty, just review this page 43, go through each scenario A through J, and just take a minute and just try to imagine what's going on. There's a lot of second, third, first language that makes it very more complicated than it is. We talked about this weekend. Okay, what happens when a wrestler takes an injury timeout at the end of the third period with a score 3-3? I have my second injury timeout at the end of the third period before the 1 minute sudden death.
So then you can have choice of top, bottom,
Correct.
As well as neutral. So you get a rare bottom start on the fourth
No, you
period.
start neutral anyway. Oh, instead of starting neutral for the sudden death.
Don't forget.
You can still yeah, because some guys want to be neutral.
So again, everybody, young guys, medium guys, old guys, pay attention because in the postseason, this will be, if you're not comfortable, this will put a little bit extra stress on that already stressful match. We don't need that stress when we're trying to make right calls.
If you get it wrong.
Yeah.
If you get it wrong, it'll be bad time.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
David has a question.
On a 30-second tiebreaker, so injury happens, so you chose in the first, you chose in the second, and you choose down, and then it becomes a stalemate. Then does it switch? Could it switch back, or is that just that? Well, the referee. Yeah, it was stopped. So then it goes back. Then the choice would go back to the other guy. So you did the restart where the person who had the second injury timeout, the other guy chose down, calls stalemate. That's over with, and then you would ask the other guy for choice.
No.
Where they should have been.
They just go back to wrestling as per usual.
Yeah. One benefit. Not a lifetime membership to the choice of the period.
David, is that clear though? Does that answer your question?
I'm just thinking of how to address it at that point.
just because I'm clear about it before, is when the 2-point stall penalty is given, you don't actually have to have any more than one stall warning before you give 2 points. You can have penalty points that lead up to that. It's when you hit stalling 2 points, that's when you're going to go ahead and stop it. Well, unless it's the bottom man. If it's a top man or otherwise, or a neutral, it's on the restart as soon as you give them those 2 points. So again, you don't have to give 2 1-point stallings before you hit them with a 2-point stall.
Yeah. Example, locking hands first period, 1 point. Illegal hold second period, 1 point. Stall warning in third period. Stalling again in third period, 2 points. Now, upon the next restart, the opponent will get choice. Correct. Yeah. But once you give the 2-point stalling penalty, regardless of how you got there, the other guy's going to get the touchdown. Correct. Correct.
And Christian, usually clarity is my forte. Perfect. Okay, moving along here. We got this.
You just interjected it. That's why.
Okay. If the defensive wrestler starts to bleed after 3 near fall points are earned, and again, these are scenarios we want to be thinking about towards the end of the season. If a defensive wrestler starts to bleed after 3 near fall points have been earned, then we award 3 near fall points plus 1 point stoppage. It would be a 4-point near fall. Right.
We actually say 4-point near fall.
Okay. And that's how we record it.
If the offensive wrestler begins to bleed while pinning his opponent, then he loses. Anybody want to take this one? Anybody want to? Lewis. Just start him on referee position on like a turtle, right? If the defensive wrestler bleeds before 2 points near falls are earned. Yes.
No, not imminent.
Let's just say I take my wrestler right to the back. Let's just say Matt Groven. What happens if I sky my wrestler, take him to his back, put him in a pinning combination, bounce my back of him, and he breaks his hip or gets injured? How many points might you give him? How many points did you give him this weekend? So Matt called it correctly this weekend. Yeah. So Matt's opponent took him to the air, and he took him to his back legally, and he took his wrestler directly to his back, and the wrestler cried out and was injured. And before Matt waved off any near fall points, he stopped it for injury time. He said 2 near fall red, even though he had not counted even a single.
Because it was imminent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And gave him the take.
And he called him for stalling.
First time, it's amazing. A lot of content.
I also
I made it 3 weeks ago. So the near fall point, if the near falls are stoppage occurs and a penalty occurs, then all points are awarded. So we have a wrestler on their back. We've earned the 5-point near fall, and it's 5 second count. 5 count, right? And then the bottom wrestler comes up and gouges the eye of the top wrestler, or pulls the wrestler's hair.
And you have to stop.
And we have to stop it. We're gonna award 3 points near fall, 1 point for having to stop it, and then 1 point for the penalty.
Unless it's in the sequence.
Or 2 points for the penalty. In that case, it will be a 5-point.
No, it's not. It's a 4-point near fall and an illegal hold 1 point.
Right.
2.
Does any illegal
We're not using stop.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So
Right,
just to clarify,
Right. So let's be really
If the defensive wrestler commits a violation while he's being pinned, he's in near fall criteria somewhere, near fall situation, you're gonna take it to the next level whether the action has to stop or not. But he may start grabbing the guy's headgear in the middle, and you say, "Let that go," and he lets it go, and you say, "That's a penalty." We're still counting. And at the end of all that, if he gets his 5 count, he's gonna get a 4-point near fall, and he's gonna get 1 for that technical violation for grabbing the headgear or whatever. Doesn't have to stop the action. They changed the rule. They synchronized it with the case. It was out of sync for about 6 or 7 years when they had a case that said, well, you could do it if you don't stop, and the rule said you had to stop the action. Now the rule just says if it happens during the situation, you don't have to stop the action anymore.
Still 4 points.
Still 4 points. And then the penalty on top of that. It's only when the defensive wrestler is committing these violations or bleeding or injury, right? When the offensive guy causes it, then we're just stopping and there's no additional points for anything.
But just to be clear on that, again, it's a may stop, it's not you have to stop with the defensive wrestler committing an infraction or foul in that way. But it is your discretion to stop it if there is something of safety or danger or something that if you think it's going to get out of control. I've seen people just grabbing on the headgear and jerking on it. At that point, you might get a situation where somebody's going to get hurt or angry, and so I stop that.
Yeah. But the NFHS language has always been that the defensive wrestler shall not profit from his illegal act. Yeah. Meaning, I'm going to get out of a pin situation with no consequence. There is a consequence. It's the next level of near fall.
It's okay to ding him for the same 2 penalties. Yeah, he's on once.
Why you got twice? I almost disqualified him for committing 4 violations while he's getting pinned. He committed 3. One more time, this match is over.
And I get pinned.
Yeah, I know. Pinning streak.
Okay, here we go. Hey, we're going to assistant referee. The book defines the assistant referee. The referee is assigned to minimize human errors in matters of the rule applications and judgment. Constant verbal communication is necessary concerning line calls, illegal holds, technical violations, potentially dangerous holds, and time remaining. So if we think about this, these are really the areas that the assistant referee is helping with. Line calls, illegal holds, technical violations, potentially dangerous holds, and time remaining. So we're helping the assistant referee, we're helping the referee be those second set of eyes versus those situations to help minimize the human errors. But they're not making the call. They're not making the call.
Depends on the guy on the whistle list.
Should be opposite in best view of the wrestlers and to communicate to the other official, which should be opposite the mat, mirroring. In a near fall, should not be down, looking at the scapula. It should, but in a position to see action clockwise and can tap when time expires. So on a pinning combination, I like to be completely opposite of the head official. The scorebook says you should be in a position to tap or stop the action or close enough. But I think you should be close enough to make sure that there's no illegal stuff going on.
Certainly, the main point in a pinning situation is for that assistant to be in a position to be able to see the clock and see the action and be indicating to the head the referee who's checking pin, that there's nothing illegal and that all's good on top. But very important, you should be in position to see the clock, see the action, and give feedback to the official about everything's good on top, basically.
That's correct.
I would add to that. I don't want people to tell me it's okay. I only want you to tell me when there's something going wrong. I mean, I'm down there looking for the fall, and I hear you talking over there. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so if make it loud, and so I know if it's an illegal hold or something like that. But don't say, he's down over here. It's okay, I've seen that.
So, Paul, do you want them, and I know that there's a lot of different opinions about this. Do you want them to say the hold is illegal, or do you want them to say check the lock? The reason why it comes up is because if the assistant official says it's an illegal hold, and the other guy looks up and goes, "No, it's not. It's good." He's got the decision, not me. But if I've just said it's an illegal hold and the coach hears it, that may create a problem. But how you communicate one to another is important. That's why I'm asking.
I think you better let him know what you're doing. He might stop and check his lock.
Specific and say, hey, he's grabbing his neck, he's poking his eye, he's, I watch the gouging of the eye. I think at that point you'd have to be very specific. You don't just say it's illegal. It's illegal. You want to be specific. So.
Illegal hit.
Yes, Bob.
So one thing I would say, like any of you that are you know the drill. Before we go to two-man mechanics, there is a briefing. There is no ambiguity about what we're doing. So the thing is, to your point, like if when I'm the guy giving the briefing, I'm telling guys, you're an official too. If you see something illegal, tell me, I'm going to call it. Sight unseen, because I trust you. You're the other set of eyes or whatever. So the thing is, if you didn't, then you would just brief your crew like, look, tell me what you're seeing so I can look. Like, hey, he's covering the mouth, or he's pulling one finger, or whatever. Like, so whatever it is, but make sure you brief each other. Especially when you're in these postseason tournaments, you're working with crews from other places. You can always tell, at least I can, okay, my gauge of whether or not an association knows how to understand mechanics is whether or not they brief each other before they go out and do it. Because I've worked with all these other associations, and none of them ever brief, and I watch guys who aren't paying attention that the clock didn't start when I blew the whistle, that they put the points on the wrong color, all that kind of nonsense. They're not trained, and they don't remind each other of stuff like that. So it's a professional thing, and I hate when guys roll their eyes. But all you guys that have worked tournaments with me, you know the drill. I do it every time. I don't care if you've worked with me. We're not going to leave it to any ambiguity. We're just going to clarify this is the role. And in general, the role of the assistant is ideally that the guy on the whistle can just watch the wrestler. He's not looking at the clock. He's not trying to make sure the scoreboard's set. He's just watching the wrestlers. You've got all the other stuff. You're a second set of eyes, and you're a second opinion. So the thing is, the ideal is that guy on the whistle can just watch the wrestlers, and you are going to make sure all the other stuff lines up. There's nothing more embarrassing at a postseason tournament than just having that thing all the time. A match shut down for 30 minutes because the score was wrong. How was the score wrong? There's an assistant official.
Dave, did you have something?
Yeah, just real quick, positive comment. Not that they aren't all about Frank. Recently done duel on coaching. Frank's done with his match. He comes over, stands on the crease between the matches. Next thing you know, there's a close call. The coaches converge on the young official over at the head table. Frank wanders over, and the discussion continues. Frank turns to the new official and says, "What did you call?" And he says, "Well, I saw this and this and this." And Frank says, "And that's exactly correct. Because he did this and he illustrated it. Frank went like this because this is went here and then." And so Frank call looks good to me. And then Frank hung out for the rest of that match right by the head table to, again, as a second official for this new young official. Frank didn't throw him under the bus. He didn't cause any arguments with the officials. In fact, the officials, when they heard Frank's confirmation, they turned and they said, "Well, thank you," and they walked away, and everybody was happy. Nice job, Frank.
If the assistant sees locked hands or clothing grasp, they should sign it right away and inform the referee. We usually like to do something like this, not like this. I see locked hands, or maybe something more a little subtle to get the other officials' attention. If I'm working with an assistant referee, I might go like this.
I just did. Put it up.
It isn't down here, it's right here. That's locking.
I'll be able to see it. That's the
Right.
only one you give a signal.
Exactly.
That's illegal or the free.
Okay, well, moving on. This is straight from the book.
book, so, maybe so, but we just say we sign it. If we need to meet, we should get a feel for a match, but when the assistant disagrees, it should bring it to the attention of the referee, immediately stopping the match, not be necessary. So what this is saying is if I see something that maybe I don't agree with, like, hey, I didn't think that was a takedown, but the head official says, oh no, that was a takedown. We don't have to stop the match. That could be the end of the story. The match can move on. So there can be some communication, even if there is disagreement. If there is disagreement, there should be a discussion, but a discussion away from the coaches, away from the wrestlers.
Quite honestly, there's a takedown, and I'm the assistant, and the official has indicated 2 takedowns. I'm not. I mean, if he's gonna ask me, then I'm gonna have an opinion. But if he's gonna call a takedown, he has a takedown, and we're not gonna go backwards in that situation.
Well, however, to minimize too many errors, if it was not a takedown, your role as an assistant referee is maybe to get the score right rather than just signing it.
Leave it to the coach. Let the coach raise it with the official, and then the head official. Then you never stop a match because you disagree with the head official's call.
Nor do we bring it to his attention. Does anybody want to back me up on this one?
You get an official's misconduct.
Now, as the assistant official, all you are there to do is give your opinion when asked.
No, I have one caveat for that. For me, and I have no problem with this, if I'm zoned in on wrestling and you think that because there's no score that you think possibly Red is stalling, right. I think you walk behind me, yes, nobody hears, and you say Red is stalling. So that's an opinion not asked for. Yes. That's in a situation where you want to, that it's nothing's going on, but you let the guy know, but you don't tell the entire world, hey, Red's, so you walk behind him. That would be one time you're not at the 180 degree, and that's one instance where you would give your opinion when it's not.
One other thing I'll add is when you're the assistant, do not undermine the guy in the whistle, and do not allow the coaches to undermine by going, hey, they're talking to you like you point to the guy on the whistle and talk to him. Do not allow them to try to undermine the guy on the whistle by talking to you or trying to influence like you don't say anything to him. Talk to him.
Let me just run through these. We have 4 left, and again, guys, I pulled these straight from the book. So again, the rule, I'm not going to argue with the entire group, but the rule of the assistant referee is to minimize human errors. So if there was not a takedown, and if there was a takedown call, it might behoove the assistant referee to help that head referee to get it right. If that head referee then has the role to either go along with the consensus, or to go out on their own. But this is just taken right from the book, and it doesn't have any language in here when not to say your opinion. So I hear what you're saying, and I'm not going to necessarily stop a match to argue with my head official. But by all means, if there was a bad call, I might say, hey, I didn't think that was a takedown. You might want, what do you think?
On a situation like that, I've been in a situation where the head official, before signaling 2, when it's an out of bounds call or otherwise, or a timing issue, he will walk over to the assistant and say, what did you have? This is what I saw. And then confer at that moment and then signal, which is a far different cry from having the assistant come up and go, you know what, I really think you blew that call.
Exactly what Frank said. It's when you're asked for help is when you contribute. If the head referee does not request your assistance on a call, you stay silent.
If a coach sees disagreement between the 2 officials, he'll eat that up.
Exactly. I see how everybody's interpreting this, but I don't. It's not reading your interpretation into the.
Very frequently, it's just how I'm the head official. I got a bang play on the side. Sure, is that 2 or not? I might look over. Yes, and I just need a nod. There's my 2. I was thinking 2. I got a nod from there. I got a then maybe I'm going to say out of bounds and I'm going to talk about it. But just that you don't even have to talk. So yeah, but if I call it 2 and the guy says, oh no, that's not, I might be ejecting my assistant official.
But I do have to tell one quick story. Very quick one.
Probably the best situation of assistant referee I had was just this last season. I was with Bob, and we were down at Tahoma High School, and he had finished because he sandbagged and took the easy map, so he finished early. Anyway, he was assisting me, and it's one of those.
Rogan went home on me.
Okay, listen. This was just perfect. No, it's just perfect because the wrestlers are going away from me and the kid's clasping. Bob's looking right at him. He shows me clasping, so I've got clasping. They're on their feet now, and the kid takes him straight over the top, and Bob just says. It was the best, most welcome smile head nod. Yeah, he went full to play on him, so we had the one and the one.
Last note on that was interesting because he didn't go like in a salto, like straight on his own. He took the guy to his side, but he took that guy straight on his head, right? Like he took him straight back. Like he was kind of turned. That's why it was a little odd. It's sort of like that's why you looked at me and I go, yeah, like he took the kid straight back. He didn't go straight back himself.
Yeah, it's right here. So I was doing two-man mechanics with Chuck, and different position. I saw it a little different. He called the guy for fleeing, and I thought he was being pushed out or back. I can't remember which one it was. But at the next restart, because he awarded points, at the next restart because they went out of bounds again. As they're coming back, I walked up. I was like, "You gave points to this kid. Is that the one you wanted to give it to?" He said, "Yes." That was all the discussion I needed. I brought to him saying, I questioned it. He confirmed which one he wanted. That was it, because it's his call, and that's kind of what you're wanting. If you see something, you can say it, but if you ask it in a question like that, did you give it to the right kid? You meant to give it to this kid? Yeah, I gave it to the kid I wanted to. Okay, cool.
By all means, I can argue with you for 2 years, 3 years, but if you see something, I'm going to look here, and it's verbatim. It's verbatim here. And when assistant disagrees, should bring to attention to the referee immediately. I didn't make any of this up. Usually I do. Should bring to attention immediately. Stopping match may not be necessary. So I'm not asking the assistant referee to say, hey, that was a bad call. I'm not saying that. But if you see something you disagree with, do the sport justice and possibly bring it to the attention to have an effect so that we can minimize human errors. Because you might be officiating with somebody that might be in their second or third year, and you might be in your 8th or 9th year. Don't do what one of my senior officials here did to me 4 years back, and let me ride the weight of the entire auditorium because he wanted me to figure out that the scorekeeper forgot to put up one of the penalty points I put up in the air, and this official let me take about 19 minutes of brutalization.
Yeah. Way to go, Dave.
If you see something,
I was a coach, but I couldn't interject.
guys, we're going to finish up this slide. The referees should prevail whether they agree with the assistant or disagree. The head referee's voice is one that prevails. The referees should inform the table of the changes. Only the referee should talk to the coaches. If the coach starts asking the assistant referee questions, divert him to, and more likely that he's going to go to the conference, and then you're going to go to the middle, and you're going to corral and stand here with the wrestlers in the middle 10-foot circle, and you're going to make sure those wrestlers stay there. Headlocks, assistants should inform of any changes from legal to illegal. So again, help the head official keep the legality. Then after the match, assistants shall be on the edge of the mat to observe both as they leave the wrestling area. So again, the main point of this slide is when you are an assistant referee, you're not just there to watch TV. You have responsibilities. Make sure you know what those responsibilities are. Do good justice and perform them. And the time, 1 minute, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. That's a small responsibility, but stay active, stay focused on the match. Your role is very important. Yes, Chris.
Use of officials when you're counting the defensive runners getting pinned out of bounds. You make sure the two supporting parts are in bounds. They're down, so that's a great opportunity to say, hey, they're out or something like that, or inform them.
Point, yeah.
Gary.
Not to do with this. I made this mistake 2 or 3 times. I just want some
We'll fix it.
opinions. That's what I'm trying to do. I get blood time, I get injury time, a minute and a half, whatever goes by, and dang it, who was on top? What do some of you do to help remind yourself of who was where? Dave? Can you just keep close to the green or the red? I've gone to the table. I clicked the table, and the table was wrong. and
Nice
it's
big
bad
frozen
time.
milk.
So when you go and you say start injury time, you walk over and say, this person's on top, please write it down. Have them note it down. When you tell them to start the clock, because you're already talking to them, when you tell them to start the clock, tell them to write it down. I've tried the mechanic of turning my, I have a Cliff King logo. I've have at times
I
turned
like
it.
them on the inside.
So I just turn it to the other side, and that might, who has it, or just hold your fist.
I think if.
Just hold, just.
So if they're neutral, then you do both. Okay.
You guys got it pretty easy. When I started refereeing, there were 2 assistant officials. And they could outvote you as the head official. Yeah, you could make a call on each side.
And they were on the edge of the mat. They never even came on it.
One last thing. I meant to bring this up earlier.
No.
All right. Hey, last thing.
All right, up front.
Last thing. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. Yes. Hey guys. What? What's up, Eric? Okay. A couple times this season, this has happened, and I want to emphasize that if you have trouble with a coach or anybody else at an event for that matter, assuming this is not just a dual meet, if it's a double dual tournament, you leave with your partners together. Okay? You do not go back and re-engage the coach. You do not leave somebody behind. Okay? You are a team. Okay? We've had where once an apprentice was, had a problem with the coach, and he ended up leaving by himself. Okay? You're a team. Your only friend out there is your other officials. Okay? Leave together.
You should arrive together.
Possible.
And once they arrive, leave the locker room together and go into the locker room together if you can. And nothing, it doesn't always happen, but if something does happen, you have somebody there with you to divert the attention. So just don't engage with somebody's getting in your face, just leave the room, but you have your partners with you. Okay. It's always best if you arrive together and you leave together. Leave the locker, get into the locker room together.
The next meeting is next week. We have elections for postseason awards and for 3 officer positions. Anything else for the good of the order?
What positions is that?
Vice president and 2 at-larges. Yeah. Anything else? Let's get out of here.